Hello, everybody. Welcome to another webinar that will surely be as useful as all the other previous ones. I am Rick from the TaxDome team, and I will be guiding you through our topic today, which is, as I'm certain you already know, all about onboarding new clients to TaxDome. As always, we'll give everybody just a moment to connect here to this session because we don't want them to miss out on everything that we're going to talk about today. In the meantime, feel free to say hi in the chat or check out the Q&A section on the right side of your screen. As with other webinars, our support team will be available throughout this entire session. So we expect you to post all your questions in there. It's best to have them clear things up if you didn't fully understand a function or something else. So please don't be shy. Make sure you get your questions in whenever you like. Also, one last thing, we will post useful links into the chat throughout the webinar. So be sure to keep an eye out if you want to learn a little bit more about any of the topics that we are going to cover. All right, so let's move on now and let me just pull up a slide here pretty quickly. All right, so let's take a look at our agenda for today. We're going to start today's session by showing you the basics of the client portal and how everything is organized there. Right after, we'll do a walkthrough of how your clients would interact with the portal and do the work that you need them to complete. We will also take a moment to talk about the mobile app and show you how it looks and how it works. Next, we'll show you the most common things that firms should customize before inviting their clients to the portal. After we go through that as well, we will want to talk about our option to have clients sign up on their own and what you can do to improve that process. Finally, we will, of course, also go over the steps that you should take before and after inviting your existing clients to the portal. When we look at it this way, you can think of this session being split into two big parts. First, we'll show off how easy the client portal is to use, and then we'll be primarily focusing on what you can set up from the firm side of it to make sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible. One thing that I want to let you know right now is that a lot of the setup steps that we're going to cover today are optional, meaning that we recommend doing them to make things more convenient for everybody, but you do not have to do it. So if you find yourself in a rush and you need to get your clients set up and running ASAP, well, then you'll be able to take care of that in no time. But you should still pay attention to today's session because it doesn't take long to significantly improve the onboarding experience for them. Now, I think it's a good idea to shift into gear here, and we are going to start with the client portal showcase. Give me just 1 second here to switch screens, and then we will be good to go. Okay, so here it is. Now, the reason why I want to start with this is because I'd like you to see the end goal right away, and then we'll go over how we will reach this point. You'll realize that it looks somewhat similar to your own portal, but the main difference is that the clients don't really need to focus on as many things since their only communication and interaction is with your firm. Therefore, on their homepage, they have this waiting for action section. It's almost like a to-do list for them. Everything is split into different sections so they can easily tell what they're looking at. But regardless of what they want to deal with first, it's always just a matter of clicking on any of the rows you see here, and they'll be redirected to where they can handle the rest of the process. After they're done, it would be removed from their list, and they could tackle the remaining things that they still need to do. This makes things as easy as possible for your clients, especially if they're the type who just tries to get in and get out as quickly as possible. Now, for clients that actively check their own files, messages, and everything else, they will still have access to this sidebar over here on the left. Everything you send to a client is automatically organized into the appropriate pages, and that makes it very convenient for them to find things that they might not have looked at in maybe months or even longer. Now, of course, there's also one more thing that's really important to your clients. Back on the home page, on the right, you'll see several things, but the most important ones are several buttons at the top. This means that they can initiate things on their own. So if they need to reach out to you or upload something, well, they don't need to wait for any requests from you. Okay, up until now, we went over the layout of the client portal, but now I'm going to walk you through how a client would take care of their responsibilities. For that, I'm going to switch to a different client's portal to give you a better idea of how someone who just started using it would interact with everything. Now, we already have several things here in the waiting for action section that I explained to you before, but we can start with this proposal. I'm going to click on it here to open it, and then I'll get to review all of its contents. Now, beside the general information and the engagement letter, the proposal can also include either an invoice, which the client will have to pay in order to sign the proposal, or you can include a list of services to inform the client of what you might bill them for at a later point. Both of these are optional, but it's good to know that you can add them. Anyhow, in this case, there is no invoice, so I can simply enter my signature here at the bottom, accept the terms of service, and then click on complete. And that's it for the proposal. Just a matter of reading it and then signing it. If there was an invoice, that would have to be just one extra step to enter their payment details, and everything else would have stayed exactly the same. So let's take a look at the organizer now. I will open it up, and then I'll be able to start answering the questions, entering information, and uploading the document. All of it is quite intuitive since there are never any confusing steps that the client would need to take in order to fill out some of this information. It's always just a matter of selecting an option, entering details, or uploading something, so nothing new for your clients. There can also be text boxes in the organizers to give clients some extra information if that is necessary. Now, generally, it's not necessary, but if you think it's going to help your clients, then you might as well add this information. Now, this organizer here is quite simple since I wanted to show it to you just for the sake of seeing how it works and how easy it is to interact with. But let me switch the screen to a different client's organizer that might give you a better idea of how it would look in a real life scenario. Okay, there it is. This is a tax organizer, so there is much more information that the client will be asked for here. This is also available in our template library, meaning that there's a good chance you might have already copied it by now if your workflows are all set up and running. Now, the other reason why I wanted to show you this organizer in a different account is because I wanted to show you two more functions here. The first one is the ability to pre-fill the organizer's answers. You see, the first time you send an organizer to a client, they're going to have to fill it out from scratch. But if you need to send that same organizer again the following year, they will be able to use this button at the top of the screen and copy over the answers from a previous one. Now, this goes without saying, but they're able to edit the pre-filled answers. So if some of their details have changed since they filled it out the last time, well, no problem. They can just adjust them. The other function is the ability to compare their answers to the ones in a different organizer. Now, this can help them make the filling out process just a little bit easier if they need to reference some information from another organizer that they filled out for you. It appears on the side, and that way makes it very easy to keep track of both. Now, let's go back to the original example organizer that we had open. This one doesn't have multiple pages and doesn't have many questions on this first page either. So I'll just quickly enter some information here, and then we will submit it. It's also useful that there is an auto-save function in the organizers, meaning that if your client were to close it out without submitting it, their progress would still be saved and they wouldn't have to start over from the very first question. Real nice feature. All right, great. Now that I have finished both the organizer and the proposal, there's nothing that I, or in this case, the client, would need to do for the time being. At this point, the firm would be notified about the client completing the elements, and they could continue their work from their end. Once the client would have something else that they are required to do, like, for example, sign a document or upload some files that you need, they would be notified by email, and then they'd take care of that just as quickly as they did with the examples that I just showed you. Now, the idea is that from the firm side, you will automate a large chunk of your process to send things out to your clients automatically. And then the clients will visit their client portal to complete whatever you currently need them to do. Of course, they can also log in whenever they need to reach out to you, since they can send you secure messages through the portal. But they can also check everything in their account, meaning the previously completed elements and also any documents that are sitting in their folders. Now, the last part here that I just mentioned is especially great, since you won't have clients contacting you to ask you to send them some documents from the previous year or anything like that. All those files will already be in their folders, so they can simply log in and find them whenever they want to take a look at them. Well, I'm sure that you can tell by now that this whole experience is extremely streamlined for your clients. So let me brighten up your day by showing you that things get even better. All of that will be thanks to the mobile app for your clients. Because sharing phone screens is a bit difficult and kind of messy sometimes, we prepared some footage of it, and I'm going to walk you through and talk you through everything that's going on here. All right, we're going to start at the moment where the client will try to log into the app for the very first time. This step is slightly different than the in-browser based portal, and you will see why in just a moment. First, they'll enter their login credentials, but then they will need to set up a PIN for extra security. This is in order to avoid needing your clients to fully log in every time, while also keeping things secure so that no one without that PIN could access their sensitive information. You can also use a biometric scan instead of a PIN if you prefer to do that. The option is there, so nothing's stopping you from using that instead if you wish. Now, the next thing that they'll see before reaching their dashboard is a prompt to enable notifications for the app. This way, whenever they receive something from your firm, there will be a push notification telling them about it. Now, that's even more efficient than the email notification, so they might want to do that. Finally, they will see a small guide about the basic functions of the app. It'll take them less than a minute to read through these couple of messages, but it will ensure that they actually understand what's happening and what's going on. Now, at the top, there will be buttons to do things like upload documents, and then underneath that, they'll have the same waiting for action section as in the client portal. The main difference is that the different pages that were usually on the left are now at the bottom of the screen. The main thing that I want you to know is that the app allows your clients to do everything they can do in the client portal in their web browser, but they can do it from their phone. So they can pay invoices, sign documents, fill out organizers. They can do everything else. And this is incredibly valuable for their convenience. And it's the reason why we see so many clients with all of our firms here using the mobile app consistently. Now let's open up the same tax organizer from earlier just to show you how similar it is and how easy it is to take care of it even using your phone. So here it is. I can just start entering my information, ticking the appropriate boxes, and go through all the pages until I am ready to submit the organizer. Now, another thing that the app does is improve your client communication. Communicating with your clients becomes really, really easy because the app partially functions like a messaging app. Since you're using TaxDome's secure message, your clients can exchange any type of information with you since it will be perfectly safe to do so. Combine this with the fact that they will get push notifications about your replies the same way as they would with WhatsApp or any other messenger like that, and I'm sure it will become the smoothest communication tool that you have ever had with your clients. Now, I think that I made my point very clear about how much of a benefit the mobile app is, but just think of all the ways the client portal makes things convenient and easy for your clients. And then add the extra convenience of being able to do all of that from a phone. You simply can't beat that. Now, I do want to go back to the browser version of the portal just for a moment to draw your attention to something before we move on to the setup that you're going to do in your firm portal. You can have your contact details available on the homepage, as well as your logo here in the top left corner. Now, I set mine to the TaxDome logo, as you can see, but you can, of course, use your own. To go one step further, I'll also log out of the client portal because I want to show you that you can add additional information even to their login page. What better way to convince them that something's official than by having your own branding visible? Now, we'll switch things up a little bit and we're going to talk about the things that you can do to prepare your portal. But first, let's take a short break here. We've covered quite a bit, so I wanted to make sure that you all had a chance to ask us your questions regarding the firm portal. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go quiet for just a minute. I'm going to give everybody a moment to get your questions into the Q&A, and then we're going to get back to work. Also, make sure to open up your own portals during the break that I'm going to give you right now so that you can follow along with the rest of the webinar. Okay, everybody, let's get back into things. So let me switch to the firm portal now, and we're going to get right into the setup. Okay, so you should all be seeing that right now. Now, I have assumed right now that you all logged into your portals, so let us get to work. The first place we'll visit is the settings page, or more specifically, the firm settings page that you can see right here. The first part is all about your firm's details. If you haven't entered any information yet, you will still likely see some fields filled out because you had to add some basic details when you signed up for TaxDome. In either case, we don't really need to delve too deep on this or get too deep in the weeds since you know your own details and there isn't really anything complicated that you need to do in this section. The only thing that I would recommend is to make sure that this toggle right here is disabled. At a glance, it might seem like a good idea to turn it on because you want to know what's being sent to your clients. However, imagine yourself dealing with 500 clients and you're sending them some organizers, messages, or other things in bulk. If this was enabled, you would get a copy of each one of those notification emails that your clients would get, so you would wind up getting hundreds of these. It is certainly best to avoid your inbox being flooded with emails unless you're sure that you need them. If that is not the case, then definitely just leave this disabled. Next up, if you use social media platforms that you want your clients to follow you on, make sure to link them here. This way, the buttons for the different sites will be available in several places. Now, just keep in mind that when adding them, you need to add the HTTPS part like you see here. If you don't add it, you won't be able to save those changes. The next field that you can see here is for the logo. Just like with the basic details on the left, we don't have to spend too much time talking about this because, again, the process just involves uploading a picture, and that's really it. Now, the only thing that you might want to keep in mind is the format of your image. You can see in the top left corner that my TaxDome logo fits quite nicely. So you should try to keep your image in a similar rectangular shape since the available space won't change depending on the shape of your image. Now, I prepared an example of this. In this other portal, I uploaded a square image, and even though it's visible, it might look nicer if you used up the space a little bit better. Now let me get back to my original portal now, and I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. The About Us section is where you'll add all the text about your firm that will be displayed on the login page. If you have it written somewhere else already, you can copy and paste it here, but if not, just take a few minutes after today's webinar and write something about your firm in here. The next thing that's really important to a lot of firms is the link to their portal. As you can see, this is my default link right here. In the middle of it, TaxDome is mentioned. If you would like to adjust yours so it doesn't show the TaxDome part in your URL, then you can connect a domain that you own. No problem. So if you're using some provider like GoDaddy, Namecheap, Squarespace, or really any other domain provider, you can connect it to TaxDome, and that way use your own custom link instead of the default one that shows TaxDome in the middle of it. We have a link that goes over the complete process of connecting your domain, so we won't show it today. The reason is not just because it would take us an extra 10 or 15 minutes and we couldn't show examples for all the different providers that are out there, but it's also because our team can take care of it for you. Now, we know that a lot of you, if not most of you, aren't really familiar with domains, websites, and the like. So if you do prefer not to spend your time trying to figure all this out, then keep an eye on the chat next to the stream. Our team will post a link there that you can check out after the webinar is over. It explains how you can request to have our team connect your custom domain to your TaxDome portal. So we'll be happy to help you out. All right, so let's get back to the settings now. The other couple of settings that you'll want to adjust are on the right side. First, the default account access. This is who will be the default assignee for new clients. If you're manually creating the account or importing your client list, then you can always change it right on the spot. But if the client is signing up from your portal on their own, then whoever you select here, that's who it's going to be assigned to. The next setting that's very important for you is the default folder template. It works just like the previous example I gave you, so use the same approach here and choose which template you want to automatically use for new users. Unlike with the assignee, the folder template might include some useful information. You can upload documents directly to a folder template, so if you then apply it to a client, they'll get those documents. This means that you can leave them some files and information ready for them to check out without actually having to do anything. It's all right there. All right, the last things that we want to take a look at here are these toggles. We already talked about these in our communications webinar, but just to reiterate, system-generated emails are the ones TaxDome sends out automatically to notify your clients about new things such as messages, pending elements, and more. These toggles control what will be shown in those notification emails. So if you want, you can include your firm details, social media links, the firm logo, and for the case of secure messages, you can choose if you want the contents of the message to be shown in the notification or not. And finally, you can also enable these toggles if you want to give your clients an extra button that lets them send you a notification about finishing their uploads. Now, this is completely optional, so feel free to try it out, see if this is something that you would prefer to either have on or maybe have off. All right, so now that we are done with this page, we can move right along to the next page, which will be the integrations page. All right, so this is where you connect a payment processor in order to bill your clients through TaxDome. Now, we talk about this extensively in our Getting Paid webinar, so make sure to check that out if you haven't done so already. Besides being able to set up your invoicing here, there are two toggles on the right that I just want to make sure I mention. The first one is there to disable invoicing completely, but we advise against doing that since you would really miss out on a ton of features and functions, so it is best to just keep this on. What about the other toggle here then? Well, this one is quite simple. This is once again a matter of preference, but we generally see firms keeping this disabled. You saw earlier in the client portal that in the top right corner, there was a make prepayment button. That's because this toggle was enabled. That's why they saw it. This means that my clients are able to independently make payments, which will then be added to their account balance in the portal. This is generally not a bad thing, but the reason why you might want to disable it is that clients can occasionally ignore invoices and just make prepayments. This leads you to either having to tell them to apply the payment to their invoice, or your team has to spend time doing it instead, which becomes an extra step that can be avoided if their only option is to directly pay invoices that you send them. So whether you keep this toggle on or off is completely up to you, but we wanted to give you some best practices there. One more place we can visit here is the Scheduler tab. TaxDome allows you to connect one out of these 4 supported schedulers directly to your portal. Now, if you do that, your clients will have an extra button appear on their client portal homepage that lets them book appointments with you without needing to go somewhere else. So enabling this is just a matter of picking the right scheduler from the list and then entering your unique link right here. Nothing else needs to be done. Nice and easy. Okay, now that that's hopefully all clear, we can move on and talk about the self-service sign-up. As I already mentioned earlier, when we talked about the default assignee and the folder templates, that one of their main purposes is to be used for clients who sign up on their own. But we haven't actually talked about the fact that you can control whether that's even going to be possible for your prospects. Now let's take another short break here before we start talking about that. We'll let you get some questions in the Q&A and we'll make sure we answer those. So we'll let you catch your breath here, get your questions in, and we will be back in just a minute. Okay, everybody, let's dive back into the self-service sign-up part of our webinar today. So if we go back to the firm settings page, you'll see a tab called Client Sign Up, and that's where we will spend some time next. Now, there are a couple of things that we will talk about, but the first toggle you see up here needs the least amount of explanation. This is where you choose if you want people to be able to sign up for your firm's portal on their own. If you enable this, there will be an extra button to sign up on the login page, which disappears if you disable this toggle. Firms out there generally have different approaches to how they get new clients into their portal. Some add a link to their website to the portal, and that way, anyone who comes across their site can create an account and start interacting with the firm right away. Others out there prefer to have external communication first just to confirm if the client is a good fit for them. And then they can add them to the portal manually once they're sure that they will want to continue working with that prospect. The cool thing about TaxDome is that you can kind of mix those two approaches if that's something you want to do. You see, this second toggle here is what will let you do exactly that. If I enable it, you'll see a bunch of stuff pop up underneath, since I already did some prep work ahead of time just to show you how all this is going to work. The first thing that you should look at is this bolded line at the top of the new section, sign up questions that trigger job creation. Now, what this means is that you can ask a question that your prospects will see when they try to sign up. And just like with any question, well, you expect answers. So after you enter your question, you can add as many answers as you need. Let's actually go through the sign up process together so we can get to this part. I'm going to start here at the login page and then click on the sign up option. I'll have to enter an email address first. And after I continue, I'll get to enter my basic details. But besides those, I'll see the question and answers that I set up as the firm. You see the answers as checkboxes, which you can tick before continuing and finishing up the setup. However, at this point, you're likely asking yourself, what's the point of all this? We'll return to my settings in order to clear up that question. You see, whenever I use the Add Answer button, I get to do more than just enter the answer. Right underneath it, there are two fields which prompt me to pick a pipeline and job template. The reason for this is to automate things and start processes as soon as the prospect signs up. Since we extensively do talk about how pipelines and all the components work in our workflow webinar, we're not going to spend time on that re-explaining it all today. I do understand that maybe not all of you have watched it, but we're going to try to keep things simple when talking about the pipelines so you can still follow along. But if you haven't seen it, please be sure to watch that. Now, the basic idea is that you have a pipeline for each service that you offer. The most common ones are tax preparation, bookkeeping, and payroll. Regardless of what the pipeline is for, you will set up automations that will trigger in each stage to automatically send things out like messages, organizers, and more stuff to your clients while also creating tasks for your team. It automates a big chunk of the work that you need to do. So think about it like this. You set up your tax return pipeline. Then you add an option to your sign-up process for new clients to select tax preparation as the desired service. What will happen? Well, as soon as they sign up, the client will be added to your tax return pipeline, and all the automations that you set up for its first step will automatically be triggered. So for tax preparation, you most commonly start out by collecting information and documents. Therefore, you can prepare an organizer automation, and the client will receive the organizer the same second they enter the client portal for the first time. So let's actually show you this in practice since I already have it set up right here. I'm going to switch the sign up screen we were looking at earlier. Now, I'll do exactly what I just described and select the tax return option and continue in order to set up my password and enter the verification code that I received. Now, this is going to take no more than a couple of seconds to enter. Okay, done. Here we go. I will click on this Let's Get Started button and I'll immediately see the client portal. You've seen it at the start of our session already, but the important thing to note here is that I just signed up and I already have several items here in my waiting for action section. So from the firm side, I did nothing after setting these options up, and all my future clients who sign up on their own will immediately be able to start working with me before I even notice that there's somebody new. As long as you have your pipelines all set up, it will take no more than a couple of minutes to set up the options your clients can select. Just keep in mind that you don't necessarily need to make it exactly like I have it. Now, we know that a lot of you prefer to vet your clients before you actually start working with them. No problem. That's completely reasonable, and a lot of people do it. But you can take care of that in a very similar way. You can make the question something very simple, such as, are you a new or existing client? Then you can set up the answers for those two options, new or existing. If they are new, you want to go over the basics with them. So what you should do is create a prospect pipeline. I mentioned that pipelines are generally used for the services that you provide, but in this case, you can consider your vetting process a service. So you can build a pipeline that goes over all the steps that you would normally take for any new client if they were sitting across from you in your office. So this means basic information collection, maybe a phone call, or maybe some other things. That all depends on your process that you would like to set up, and you can set it up any way that works best for you. But the most important thing is that you can automatically funnel your new clients into that pipeline and make the process smoother for both you and for the clients. And in the end of the day, that's what it's really all about. Okay, we just covered quite a bit here. I think it's good time for another very short break. As always, I'm going to leave you with a small recap slide on the screen for just a little bit here while I give us all a chance to recharge a little bit. And just to make sure, the Q&A is available. Get your questions in there. Our team is still standing by and helping answer questions that come through. So if something wasn't clear and you still got another question, by all means, let us know. All right, then, we're going to pause here for a minute. I'll see you all in a moment. All right, everybody, we are back. Hopefully you're all still up for more because we are about to delve some more into the other ways you'll be onboarding your clients. Up until now, we've been very focused on making adjustments to your portal to make information easily accessible to your clients and also to give new clients who signed up on their own a little bit of a jumpstart. What about the clients that you will be adding yourself? Well, initially, you're most likely going to import a spreadsheet that includes all your existing clients. So you'll be adding hundreds of them all at once. Now, we went over the whole import process in our TaxDome 101 webinar. So if you attended that one, you surely remember how simple the import process was. Right now, we will assume that you've already have your clients added, but you didn't invite them yet. That's a really common thing during everybody's setup. Importing clients tends to be one of the first things that you do, and then you handle the rest of the setup before you actually invite them. So we're going to focus on a couple of things, but we will start with a really common step that we see tons of firms doing. You will want to prepare an introductory email template. What I mean by introductory is something that will let them know that you're switching to a brand new portal, that you'll be handling all the communication and interaction through it, and any other information you want to share with them in order to prepare them to get onto the system. Now, we've already have a very good starting point that you can use, so I'm going to show you how to use it. First up, click on the Templates tab in the left sidebar menu that you see over here, and then select Template Library. You'll reach this page where you will be creating and editing all your templates. Now, for now, we specifically care about the email templates. So head to the email tab right here, and then to find the specific template that I mentioned before, go into the Template Library by using this button at the top of the list. The template you are looking for is entitled EN Welcome to Portal. Once you find it, just click on the blue copy button on the far right side of the template's name. Once you do that, you'll see it in your list of templates, and you can then open it and make any changes that you like. Now, I'm going to open it up here. I'm going to show you what's in it. It starts off with a brief explanation of the purpose of the email, where it talks about your intent to start using a new portal and how it's going to benefit everybody. After that, it immediately shows them the links to download the mobile apps, those all-important mobile apps that you certainly want them to use. This is very important because you'll find that a lot of your clients prefer to use their phones to get their work done, and thanks to the app, they can do everything on the go. Anyhow, the email then goes over how to start using the portal and the app. It includes descriptions of the different parts of the client portal and includes more resources that the client can access at any point if they wish. So as you can see, this seems like a great starting point for introducing TaxDome to your clients. But as I mentioned, you can make as many changes to this and any other template that you want. So feel free to personalize it, get your own flavor, your own style in any way that you would like. The important thing is that you prepare something like this before you actually invite your clients. Otherwise, your clients might be a bit confused if they suddenly get an invitation to a new portal totally out of the blue and they have no idea what it's all about. Okay, for the time being, let's move on. It would be great if you managed to follow along so far and copied this template, but if not, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal since we're just going to show you how to send the email out, but you don't have to do that right now, so don't worry about it. So head on back to your clients page, or more specifically, your accounts list. The easiest way to reach out to all your clients is from here. You will notice that next to the names of all your accounts, there's a small box that you can tick to select them. For an introductory email, you might likely want to select everybody. So tick the box at the top of the list to select all. But if you have more clients than are currently visible on the page, make sure to select all items. Now, the final thing that you would have to do is click on the Send Email button in this new menu that magically appeared. You will then get to either compose a brand new email or you can use the template from earlier. If you have a template, just click here on the template field, select it, and it will enter its details automatically. And that's basically it for this step, since the last remaining step is to just send it out. But we're not going to do that right now since we want to give you a chance to make any changes to your template. Also, if you want to learn more about customizing your emails and a lot more about the ways you will communicate with your clients, please make sure to check out our client communication webinar. Now, while we're here in the accounts list, it would be a good idea to revisit something we talked about a little earlier. Back when we talked about the self-service sign-up options, we discussed how new clients can be automatically added to a pipeline as soon as they sign up. You will also want to add your existing clients to your pipelines to achieve the same results. So, you just saw how we handled sending emails in bulk. The good news is that the process is basically the same for adding your clients to a pipeline. Select the clients that you want to start your process for, but this time use the Add Job button. You then get to select the pipeline you want to add them to, and then when you try to confirm, you'll see a new menu slide out that will notify you about the different automations that are about to be triggered for all of the clients that you've just included. You can turn any of them off by unticking the boxes, but in most cases, you'll want to have all yours turned on since your own pipelines will be set up based on your preferences. And of course, you'll want everything you set up to actually be used. Now, before you add them to a pipeline, keep one thing in mind. Your clients would receive notifications about most automations. For example, if your automations send out an organizer and proposal, the client will get an email notification about receiving those. If you haven't invited them yet, it would be confusing for the client. So I would recommend not doing this step until you're ready to actually invite your clients. So we can talk about that next since you know how to handle the other steps by now. Thankfully, inviting clients is also extremely simple. If you imported your clients like we talked about in a previous webinar, you likely held off on inviting them until this point. Because of this, you'll see an extra tab here that says Pending Activations. In this tab, you will be able to see all your clients that have their login toggles, or in other words, login rights enabled, but have either not been invited or haven't activated their accounts yet. To invite them, Just select them via the boxes, same as before, and then use the button that appears at the top that says Resend to Selected. The activation email that will be sent to the selected clients will include a unique link which the client would need to use to access their accounts for the very first time, meaning basically activating it. We'll go over this process soon, but for now, the only other thing that you need to know is that you can include a personalized message in this activation email. There will be a text box right above the send button, so you can enter some text there if you would like to. This is, of course, optional, but you might want to use it just to clarify anything you might think your clients might be uncertain about. But either way, the last thing you have left to do is click on the send button, and then you just wait for your clients to activate their account. That's all there is to it. Of course, if you see that some of them haven't activated their accounts after some period of time, whatever time you decide on, you can follow these exact same steps to send another invitation. Anyone who activates their account will disappear from this list, so you don't need to worry about spamming clients or hitting them up with the same email over and over and over. If they've already done their part, great, they won't get the email again. All right, well, that covers just about everything we needed to talk about in the firm portal. Now we will take another short look at the client experience. We will go over what the client needs to do to activate their account. So let's start here in the client's email inbox. The first one they received was the introductory email that we copied from the template library. The client would read this and then would know what to expect moving forward. The next email that they would receive is the activation email. This one looks slightly different from your regular email since it's system generated and includes some extra details in here. The important part here is that the client just needs to click on the activate button and they'll be sent straight to the client portal. The only thing they have to do in order to finish their account setup is to enter and confirm a password. You already set up everything else for them when you imported them. So this is the only thing they have to finish before they can freely use the client portal. Once they wrap up the password creation, you'll see that they already have a couple of things waiting for them. In this case, an organizer and a proposal. Now, if you remember, this is because I said that it's a good idea to add them to a pipeline right after you invite them, because that way there won't be any gaps between them activating their account and being able to start working and interacting directly with you. So if I open their email inbox again, you'll see that the remaining emails are about the organizer and the proposal. The cool thing about these notifications is that if you send them to a client that has not activated their account yet, they will include a message about activating their account. Additionally, from the firm side, you can also enable automatic reminders for things that you need your clients to complete. That way, they'll get more of these emails at regular intervals without you needing to reach out to remind them about you wanting this information. It's all going to be automated. All right, so that covers everything that I wanted to show you today. Let's take one last break right now to make sure that you get any remaining questions that you have into the Q&A, and then we're going to recap what we talked about today. We're going to wrap up today's webinar. So I'll see you all in a minute, but be sure to get your questions in as our team is still here waiting to answer all of the questions for you. Okay, everybody, feel free to keep getting those questions in there if you need to. But with that, we have reached the end of today's webinar. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have been talking about today. We opened the session by taking a quick look at how the client portal is organized. We followed this up by showing you how clients would interact with the portal and the items that you would send them before showing off the mobile app as well. We then switched to the firm portal and went over the different things you could customize, ranging from adding your basic details and your logo to white labeling and connecting a scheduler. Next, we spent some time talking about how prospects can sign up to your portal on their own and how you can improve that entire process. We then wrap things up by going over how to invite your existing clients to the portal and all the steps you should take to make sure that the onboarding process is very smooth. I am very happy that we managed to go through all of this in one session, and I certainly hope that it didn't seem overwhelming to you here. We spent a good bit of time talking about different things that you could adjust in your settings, but in practice, that's going to take minimal effort to customize. Besides that, the remaining steps were all quite easy, so I hope you managed to understand everything very well. And if you didn't, hopefully you got your questions in there. As always, I recommend to all of you, make sure you visit our help center and especially the TaxDome Academy. In that academy, you're going to find courses about everything related to TaxDome. So it is one of the best ways to fill in any gaps in your knowledge or learn everything from scratch if you wanted to. So folks, that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed learning about how simple it is for your clients to start using TaxDome and how easy it is for you to customize certain parts of your portal. If you went through all of our webinars and applied the knowledge you received from all of them, I'd say you're basically ready to invite your clients and get started working with them. Thank you all so much for joining us today for another webinar. I appreciate your time and making it all the way through, and I certainly look forward to seeing all of you again very soon. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.